Here's what I struggle with, and maybe you guys can help me figure this out. Like, how do you feel generally speaking about January 6th?
It's funny.
It's funny. Okay.
It was an act of... I feel like whenever I call it treason, they're like, technically it's not treason. Treason has to do with being in war. But it was the least patriotic thing a human can do. He tried to keep himself in power illegally, immorally. Everything bad about a president can't happen that day. He watched people violently break into the Capitol building and stood down. And now he lies about it and says, oh, it's really Pelosi's fault or whatever that bullshit is.
Wait, that's true, though.
No, it's not. See, that's one of the problems
cops.
with... No, that is not true, actually. He says it all the time, but it didn't happen. Go Google it. Go fact check it.
Listen,
right.
DC,
he didn't ask her.
DC is a federal district. DC is a federal district. Who's the head of the federal government? The commander-in-chief.
Did she say no or not?
Just Google
the conversation never
happened.
National
Guard. Just Google who is in charge of the National Guard.
So the conversation didn't happen.
Well,
that whole thing is false. And so hold on. This is one of my frustrations with Trump. He tells, I'll make it up, a lie a minute, right? And then a lot of his listeners say, aha, yeah, but I know which ones are lies and which ones aren't. And here we have Dick actually believing Nancy Pelosi turned down the National Guard. People don't
not National
know.
Guard. She turned down something. I don't know who it was.
People don't know which ones are truth and which one are lies. It's sometimes hard to tell. And he'll stick with the lie again and again and again. So when you hear it enough, you're like, maybe it is true. Maybe there's something truthy about it. If I tell you I caught a 2.5-foot fish, you might think that fish was at least 2 foot. If Trump tells you he caught a 2.5-foot fish, he never went fishing.
I've never heard an innocent. I want to ask you guys this question. I've never heard an innocent explanation for this. So we have a firm timeline that nobody, not even Trump, disputes of what happened that day. We know that Trump gave his speech at the Ellipse and he went back to the White House at 1:20 and he was in the White House dining room at 1:25. We know this. Dozens, hundreds of witnesses attested to this. We know that he sat in the White House dining room and watched on live television cops brutalized and mutilated. Literally mutilated. There were dozens of cops were mutilated that day.
Wait, when?
How are they mutilated?
On January 6th.
How are they mutilated?
Did they take ears?
No.
I'm going to continue what I'm saying. So at 4:17, nearly 3 hours later, is when he finally asked them to go home.
Cops were mutilated.
They were literally mutilated. People stole their batons from them and beat them with their own batons. You had people crushed in a doorway because his Trump supporters were violently.
Didn't see that footage?
How did you not see this footage?
It's so everywhere.
I understand information silos. You can laugh all you want. You can laugh all you want. You can laugh all you want.
I don't know.
We know
it's
for
the
a fact.
word, and I'm just.
It's the word mutilated is ridiculous.
It's because when we ask, you start freaking out. Like this will undermine your little speech. Like they're
if you back off mutilated and make it attack.
There were lacerations. There were broken bones. A guy named Brian Sicknick had a stroke. He died the next day. The coroner's report, the chief medical examiner.
Did Trump cause the stroke with like a stroke gun?
The coroner's report. The coroner's report. The chief medical examiner said all the events of what happened that day contributed to his condition. So we know that Donald Trump watched it live, and waited 3 hours to ask them to leave. How do you explain that?
Well, first of all, cops
got a stroke because he got too excited, and that's our fault?
Do you know more than a chief medical examiner?
I mean, if he's saying a cop shouldn't have had a stroke for being a cop, I guess. A cop
I'm a
showed
doctor.
Up to work
the stroke
and it's
was
like
caused by
he gets
the
too
events of that
stressed
day.
out and has a stroke, and what's his job then?
You know, the whole thing about the January 6th stuff for me, I always hear about like hours of tape that they won't give up, and I hear about that question they asked how many FBI agents were in the crowd, and they're like, we don't discuss agents personnel usage and placement. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Well, how many? I don't think of it as cope. I just want to know why there's any stink around this. And then I see video, and I don't think that's cope, of them being like ushered in some cases. I also see video of people breaking windows. And on top of all that, the other thing I don't care for, and Woody will say fuck around and find out, and touche, I guess she did fuck around and she did find out. But that crazy woman who tried to climb through the barricade. If you watch the video, there's like 2 or 3 SWAT guys behind her, and she's trying to climb through this like reinforced glass like window that's within the center of a doorway. And it's
But
like
you're
they kill her.
You're not addressing my question at all.
Because you're so
do you
agitated
explain-
about this narrative that you're trying
How
to
do
get
you
across.
explain?
It's nuts.
Well, just explain it to me. How do you explain Donald Trump watching cops get brutalized for 3 hours and before finally asking them to go home?
The cops?
Trump asked
Oh
them
my gosh!
3
Do you really
hours.
think you stop it, Dick?
Trump said go peacefully, no violence. And then he got banned from Twitter.
And then
So
he
couldn't
watched
say anything.
the violence unfold live on television for 3 hours. His family begged him to ask those protesters to leave. His staff begged him to ask those protesters to leave. And it took 3 hours. So how do you
Like with a
explain this?
bullhorn? What do you mean? He said go peacefully to whatever we're doing next. Don't do any violence.
You're not
what more do you what more do you want to pin
the
on him?
substance
Mutilated
of
police?
my question at all. You're not.
Do you
What
think
you're
it's-
asking is insane. What you're
I'm
asking is
telling
why
you.
did Trump wait 3 hours to stop violence? I don't know, man.
Why?
Does he have a magical anti-violence wand that he can wave?
Number one, he could have put out a message as soon as violence broke out, asking his supporters to leave. Number
They were
one. Number
fighting.
two-
They weren't
number
tweeting.
Number two, he could have.
They
he
had
could have
cops
called-
to mutilate.
he could
They're
have
not on their
called
phones.
He could have called in the National Guard immediately. He had complete authority to call in the National Guard immediately. That call had to come from Pence. He never even made that call. So,
Hutch,
Pence
how
made
do
the
you
call?
explain that?
The reason that Trump didn't do anything for 3 hours is he was hoping the insurrection would work.
Well,
How would it
yeah.
work?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
How would it work?
He was trying to pressure Pence to reject those electors and send it back
Yes.
to the states so he could further litigate his claims that
He
had
wanted-
already been adjudicated and settled.
So
That's
using
what
the
happened
legal
that day.
system
He
was
needed
his
Pence to
plan?
see the writing was on the wall, and I'm surprised Pence stood by there because like there was probably how like telephone games work. I'm sure there was a moment where his Secret Service was told like they've taken the Capitol, and it's
he
like
didn't
wait
give a
what?
fuck. And
He was
didn't give a
happy.
fuck.
It's
The
what he
castle
wanted. He
has
told him to go
fallen.
down there
The
and
castle
fight.
has fallen.
He didn't give a fuck.
Well,
didn't
wait,
give a
Hutch,
fuck.
you're not right. He did care. He was happy. This was what he hoped for. He said, "March down to the Capitol and fight." Right?
You guys are
He-
in a cult together.
He said
Do you think
he said
Trump
to
wanted them
go.
to
Yeah, he said
storm
to
the
go
Capitol?
peacefully.
You don't
He also
answer
said to fight.
questions. You dodge questions.
It's
you
the
realize
Trump
that, right?
Tuesday.
Hush, you're asking loaded questions. Like you say
loaded
what happened and
question.
then say,
I'm
well, how do you
asking you for an
explain what
innocent
I
explanation.
hallucinated
I'm
happened?
asking- I'm asking
What you're
you for
saying
an
is totally
innocent-
insane about cops getting fucking mutilated, dude. Like 3 cops out of natural
Bro.
fucking causes. You can grab your
Bro.
head like you're Jesse Pinkman
Give
over
me
and
the
over. It
innocent
doesn't make it right.
explanation. Give me the innocent explanation. Try.
Trump said go down. Trump said go down, and we're gonna have a big rally about freedom, and we're gonna.
And then he watched cops.
Hey,
get
you fucking
brutalized
interrupting
for 3
jackass! I'm trying to
hours.
fucking explain it
You're
to
not
you.
answering the question. You are not answering
Trump
the
said
question.
the beneficial-
You're not even trying to answer the question. You
The
understand that,
generous
right?
explanation is that he said, hey, everybody, go down peacefully and assemble. And we're going to have another big rally. All we do is rallies, and things got out of hand because you got a bunch of agitators in the crowd. Some guys who are nuts, Antifa guys, and the FBI, and they're all trying to agitate everybody.
All right,
the FBI tried to kidnap Whitner, you smug fucks. What the fuck are you talking about?
Sure.
They don't do this shit.
Sure. I'm going to ask the question again. He watched it for 3 hours. Why did he wait 3 hours to ask them to leave?
Ask who to leave? Everybody?
You.
Hey,
dumb
everybody!
motherfucker.
Hey, everybody, leave! Hey, everybody, leave!
It's not that
What do you
you're
want him to
ideologically
do?
entrenched. You're just dumb. You're not answering this question, and I think it's obvious why.
What do you want him to do? What exactly did you want him to do?
Tell them to leave.
Where?
As soon.
Where?
What do you mean where? What kind of
Twitter.
Tell
question
them!
is this?
Who the fuck is them, Hutch, you jackass? Where would he
His
get his fucking
supporters.
tin can
His-
phone? How?
dumb
Where? Say it
motherfucker.
where. Say where. Where? Tell them where.
He posted at 4:17. He asked them to leave, and they left. Do you realize that?
On Twitter?
Yes.
Yes.
So you think Trump saying on Twitter, hey, everybody leave, and they all just go, well, we're out of here. See ya.
It literally
We're going.
happened. It literally happened. I would.
I guess if it happened at the same time, then one must have caused the other. How do you get this far without no? I guess that's your whole platform, right?
Okay.
Correlation is causation.
Okay.
It happened at the same time, so it must have caused it. They didn't just get tired and go home. Trump, oh, hey everybody, Trump said to go. We got to go. Let me get this lectern. Let's get out of here. Is that what you think happened? Is that what you think happened?
It literally
And Trump
happened.
caused it. Trump caused it.
Yes. Why did he wait 3 hours? Have you tried to answer that question? Why?
Why did he wait 3 hours to tweet?
Yeah.
I don't know. He's probably figuring it out. What feed was he getting? Did he try to go there himself and stop it?
We know he was watching it live on TV. We know this for a fact.
So you wanted him live tweeting it?
I wanted him the second they started breaching the Capitol and attacking cops to tell them to go home. Yes.
Everybody? He doesn't think cops have this under control?
Let's leave half of them in the Capitol. Yeah, let's just leave half of them. Of course.
Well, you guys have done that multiple times. You guys
just the ones that were let
protests in the fucking Capitol all the time. So it's not really it's not that strange for this big of a deal.
Okay.
Do you or do you not protest in the Capitol? Have liberals ever done that?
There's a slight difference between what we've seen in the past and what we saw on
you
January
did it.
6th.
That's the difference. You guys did it, so it's fine. Yeah.
There were people, for example, that protested the Kavanaugh hearings. They got arrested. They engaged in a form of civil disobedience. People take those risks and they break the law and they should be thrown in jail. Yes.
So your big problem with January 6th is that Trump didn't tweet it right away and say, go home. That's it.
He incited a mob to storm the Capitol in an effort to pressure Pence to not certify the results of those elections.
What a story.
It's not a story. It literally happened.
Oh, man. Look at all this stuff that he did. I know because I can read his fucking mind.
And then, I don't know.
Trump, this is Trump's elaborate plan. By the way, he's a jackass and he's an idiot and he doesn't know what he's doing. But here's his elaborate scheme to somehow pressure people into using the legislative systems back in their home states. Wow, what a fucking monster. Thank God he didn't get away with using the system.
You still have not even tried to touch the question of why
he didn't tweet right away. I don't fucking know. Because he thought it would make it worse. Because he thought other people were because he thought the Capitol Police should be there doing their job.
You're saying he thought he would make it worse by asking them to leave?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't pretend to know what's in Trump's head. He said gather peacefully. What more do you want?
Okay. Did that happen?
I mean, for the most part, yeah. Most people, the people staying in the red velvet rope, walking around the Capitol, were doing it peacefully. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, what?
I'm not, you're not answering the question at all.
I said I don't know why Trump didn't immediately tweet, hey, everybody disperse, everybody leave. Don't you think that'd be kind of weird?
Just try to give an innocent explanation. Try.
I just did. He's getting information and he doesn't know what to do. He figured the Capitol Police would take care of it. He figured that the fucking locks on the door would work.
No. You're speculating when we don't need to. We know he was watching it live on TV for 3 hours.
So you're saying why didn't Trump stop Ashley Babbitt from climbing in that window? Is that what you're asking? Like he should have been right there. No, I'm the hand of God. Don't do what you're about to do.
Why did he not ask them to leave?
I don't know. Because he thought the Capitol Police would figure it out. Maybe he was trying to do other things.
Okay.
No. I understand that the only reasonable explanation is that he was trying to stage a fucking coup using Cracker Barrel grandmas, right? That's the only reasonable explanation. All right, everybody, get in there and walk through the velvet ropes and go in Nancy Pelosi's office and kick your feet up. That'll really strike fear into their hearts, right? Maybe the answer's on the floor, Hutch. Okay. Sure. Is that Am I your? Do you see your dad when you answer me like that?
So then, what?
You have this smug, sarcastic attitude with them.
I would encourage everybody who's listening to this right now.
Me too.
I would encourage everybody who's listening to this right now. The New York Times compiled a 40-minute compilation of videos that was assembled from footage from hundreds of people that day, and it documents in detail the hours of brutal violence. It was not just
mutilated.
It was not just QAnon grandma walking around the Capitol. You know that it's not true. I
mean, there's tons of people there. I'm sure there's a bunch of assholes too. The FBI's there. I don't like them.
Why would you focus on the grandma who was walking around the Capitol and not the people who were taking American flags and beating cops with them? That you guys are the guys that are the ones that normally say the thin
cops
blue line,
weren't fucking
back to blue, et cetera, and now all of you think that these cops were like fucking deep state in on some Fed conspiracy.
Why were the doors open?
No, not the cops for sure. They got their asses whooped. I think there was FBI in that crowd, essentially entrapping people by being like, yeah, come on, do it. If you've ever been in like a group fight of teenagers, there's one guy who's like, yeah, you should go get him. You fuck him up. You're a legend of the docks.
Why would the FBI incite a mob?
To do their job of arresting people. The FBI's job is to arrest terrorists, so they're going to cause terrorism. I mean, this is basic stuff. They do it all the time.
Well,
Yeah.
that's all
this
fascinating.
feels a lot like
that's
that
certainly-
time when
that's
they
certainly
said
a
it
take.
wasn't really Trump supporters there. It was all Antifa, right?
Mhm.
Oh, we would never
Yeah.
do the January 6th thing. That was Antifa. It's grasping at straws to not take responsibility for this.
Who, me? I didn't
I
do
was
it.
there.
Yes.
The people that were
God
there.
damn it.
I was
Yeah,
at
stop implying I was.
BLM, and there were Antifa guys there.
All right.
100%.
Credit to you.
Doing
That was
bad shit.
funny. I didn't mean to say you personally, but I'm obviously talking about the protesters
though.
that were there. And they're trying to say that wasn't Trump's people. Those were Antifa people. But we all know that's stupid, right? We do.
I mean, I'm sure it was both being bad guys. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
violent
Bad on
people.
both sides.
Is Antifa
Yeah.
here with us now?
Yes. They're all
Okay.
over.
All right.
What do you?
I'm just
I've
saying,
been,
do
I've
you
been
see
violently
Antifa
assaulted by
on this
Antifa
call?
guys. What are you talking about? A self-identifying Antifa guy threw me into a concrete bunker in front of Netflix.
I was
I would
seeing
rather-
people say
I-
Antifa shot Trump, whatever it was, last weekend, and I'm like, my gosh, everything's Antifa. Antifa's everywhere. It's the go-to boogeyman for the
Used to be
right.
Al-Qaeda.
I would
That was a
rather
good
you
time.
just say, the left poses, I believe the left poses such a serious threat that I'm okay with Donald Trump taking whatever steps he felt was necessary to stay in power. I would just much rather you just be honest about it instead of trying to come up with these bullshit excuses.
See, this is like
for his
this is why
egregious
everything you say
behavior
is
that
so
day.
loaded. It's like I want you to say, and then you give your insane opinion that I don't think, and then you act like a smug prick when I don't agree with it.
There's
like
no-
I just
there
wish
is
you would
no
say you
innocent
want to kill liberals. Why
explanation.
won't you admit it?
I'm not saying you want to kill liberals. I'm saying that people broadly on the right view the left as this deranged mob of people that want to mutilate and sexually abuse kids and destroy democracy, replace capitalism with communism, replace God with Satan. And they're ready for someone like Trump to come in who openly floated suspending the Constitution. You know, like he just openly said it. And so I just don't understand this idea that you have to like jump through hoops. Just fucking say, you know what? I'm ready for a king. I am ready for this American democratic project to end, and I'm ready for a strong man to come in and protect the country from these godless liberals. We all know that's what you think.
This really
is not
plays
that
to
you
your
say it out in
audience
the
who
open.
sees all conservatives as one person. But this might shock you, but we're all individuals who think
Sure.
that Trump had different reasons for doing what he did. A lot of us don't think that election was valid. A lot of us think
Based
that
on nothing. Based on nothing. On
Well,
nothing
no,
but
But
there
wait,
was
wait. This goes into the question that Trump was trying to get to. Like, why did Trump wait 3 hours? I think Dick is like, I'm okay with it because I think that election was shady.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. I don't know what Trump tried to do in those 3 hours to stop it.
Nothing.
And
What do you mean you don't,
know?
What do you mean you don't know? We have a historical record of what happened that day. He tweeted 2 times and said remain peaceful during a riot, and then 3 hours finally asked them to leave. We know this. This is not like, well, I don't know. Well, go back and look at what happened. This is
Yeah,
not
I mean,
up
it's
in the
such
air.
a weird thing to focus on when the J6 thing didn't do anything. It was just it was mostly people walking
They had to
around.
evacuate the Senate chambers. They had to delay the certification of the They literally had to stop what they were doing and evacuate
Holy shit, a whole
senators.
day? Oh my
What do you-
God. Did they still manage to spend all of our money in that day? I hope so.
What bothers me is their goal wasn't to delay it for a day. Their goal was to stop this, what is it called, ratification of the votes of the Electoral College and slip in the fake Electoral College that Trump had handpicked who would ignore the will of the voters and choose him instead. That was the
Not
move.
all of them, though, right? You don't think everyone there that day had that in mind, do you?
No, but I
Right.
think they were following Trump's instructions. I think
And
I
Trump's
Trump
just
instructions
said
were to be peaceful.
he said both things. This is the Trump two-step. You're not on the show every week, but it's a thing I say a lot where I give these examples of Trump who says one thing and the other, and people say, "Oh, but wait, he said the other." But
I
he
put it
said
together.
both. He
Yeah.
said good. Yeah. I'm sorry. But Trump did say you're going to lose your country if you don't fight, and he also said, "But peaceful." And now
Well,
both
yeah.
sides get to hear what they want.
but
Well,
you can't say
I think-
fight means violent, though. Like, that's like political rhetoric.
You know, I hear you. All right. And I ask myself if I would make that same argument if it was my guy. But he's made a lot of
Yeah.
violent requests, you know, and
It's the
seems
same as the
hard
fucking
to ignore.
bullseye shit. Like
Yeah.
they try to they're trying to pin. The way I see fight politically is the same way I see bullseye. I remember when they did it to Sarah Palin. I know now they're doing it to Biden, where they're like, "Oh, he said put a bullseye on him," and it's like, yeah, that's
Stupid.
rhetoric, meaning we need to
here-
target this person and try and shut him down. The same way fight means go there, rally, do what you need, like fucking cheer and rah rah shish boom bah your shit, but do it peacefully.
Well, here's
He
an
likes
interesting
them in
question.
there delaying
Reasonable
their.
take.
There was a
Here's an
procedure
interesting
where he
question,
was
okay?
about to be officially the loser of the election. And I think he really liked that it wasn't happening. I think he liked that they were in there preventing Congress from doing his job.
Well, let me just ask you guys a question. If it was true that Joe Biden and the Democratic Party apparatus engaged in massive fraud all over the country and literally stole the election as Trump was alleging, would January 6th have been justified?
More than January 6th.
If they actually did, 100%.
Exactly.
No, it's still a crime.
Exactly. They would have been justified. If Biden actually did this coup, it would have been justified. And what did
But that's
Trump
a
do with-
hindsight thing.
Yeah, but what would have been
Well,
justified? Doing a parade? Illegal parading?
No, I'm saying it would have been justified. And what did
What would have
Trump
been
do?
justified?
The thing that
Invading
happened.
the Capitol, trying to do a coup.
Yeah.
We would applaud it if it happened in
That
like a
wasn't
Central American
that wasn't a
country.
coup though. It's just
I mean,
a
it
bunch
doesn't
of old
seem
people
like a
walking around.
But this
genuine
is the context.
It doesn't
This is
seem
the
like
context.
nobody brought guns.
Yeah.
Nobody was
That's
fucking
not true.
being
That's not
like
true.
shooting.
There were multiple
trying-
people. That's not true. There were multiple people. That
How many
were arrested
people
on
were
gun
shot on
charges that day.
January
Somebody-
6th?
Yeah,
Other than
people.
Ashley Babbitt, how many
Babbitt
people?
got
Were,
1,000.
hold on, how many people other than Ashley Babbitt were shot on January 6th?
Nobody. But you said there was no guns that day. But
Who were they
there
going to shoot, Taylor? They were all on
Okay,
the same
so I guess
side.
the FBI had guns.
Hold on. What happened that day is Donald Trump went to that ellipse and he gave that preliminary speech to his rally to his supporters, and he told them they stole this election. There was massive fraud. Mike Pence needs to do the right thing and save the country from the people that are stealing. So he implanted this thought in their minds that was based on nothing, absolutely nothing. No court case validated anything he was saying. He was
Not until
purposefully
after.
choosing. Not ever.
Yeah,
And
after
so
it
he
did.
implanted this thing in their head, and then what did they do? They went and they fought like hell for their country. So if you can't say that he bears at least some responsibility, me and Woody would probably argue it's like 99% his fault. But if you can't acknowledge that some of the
You
responsibility
guys give
that
1%? Wow, that's generous of you two.
would that have happened if he didn't ask his supporters to come to January 6th that day?
Right. I mean, the short answer, it
100%.
was because of that. I mean, I
Yes.
was hearing about January 6th and the plans for this on my Facebook feed from the crazies I engaged with at the time. It was an open thing.
Then why aren't there more Capitol Police there?
There were interesting revelations.
Why
that came
weren't
out
there
in
more Secret Service at the rally?
Exactly.
I think
It's run by a woman.
might be the same.
There
thing.
is an
Apparently, Secret Service would have just watched and been like, all these weird Corinthian columns. We can't climb up these. No,
there is an answer to this. There were people in the administration, and there were people in the, I think, what do you call the military Joint Chiefs of Staff? There were people in the sort of like defense apparatus that were concerned about the optics of a military presence there during a rally, and that obviously was stupid. But we have an answer to that question. It's not because of whatever it is you guys are alleging. They just
No,
somebody made
Capitol
a
Police,
fucked up-
not military.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I think. Well, I think it goes both ways. I think
So
the
they didn't want
concern-
military presence, and then they put up barbed walls right after, and they're fine with
Well,
that?
they could, again, Donald Trump literally could have called in the National Guard within 5 minutes of the violence. And he,
Well,
and he
why
just
is it his
chose not
job,
to.
though? He's not doing, I mean,
Why is it? Why is he's the commander in chief, bro? What do you mean?
the commander-in-chief of the Army. The Army doesn't fight Americans, bro. Did you forget that?
The National Guard, you absolutely can deploy the National Guard to quell an insurrection.
And you expect him to have done that in like a couple minutes after people are.
Yes!
An insurrection isn't a bunch of Cracker
Yes!
Barrel grandmas going through
thought it was.
open doors. Yes, it is. An insurrection is like a fucking militia storming shit, not a
at this
bunch
point-
of not a
at
bunch of
this point,
feds
I'm-
opening the door for a
At this
parade.
point, listen, like information silos exist, and at this point, I'm just fully convinced that you have somehow just I don't know how you've somehow managed to avoid the fucking hours of footage
that
of the
you're
violent
saying from
clashes.
inside your fucking silo. No, I get it completely. It's amazing that this plan totally worked. They stormed the Capitol, and yet he immediately wasn't president. What a dumb plan.
I don't know what you're saying. Like sometimes like
No
insurrections
shit.
fail. Sometimes insurrections fail. They don't work.
Do you
like
wait, Hutch? Do you really?
Failed coup.
Hold on, I'm interested. Like Hutch, do you really think all these largely Facebook boomers showing up unarmed and most of them, the vast majority, parading around like retards with their sunglasses profile pics on Twitter? Like, do you think that was a sincere, honest to God coup?
Your memory of that day is
here comes the
spotty,
bullshit.
I will say. You keep talking about QAnon grandma, people walking around and putting their foot up.
Do you think what I just described, which is realistic, is a honest to God coup, or do you think a coup is more like what we see in the Khmer Rouge and things like that?
I think what is more likely that happened that day is you had Trump supporters show up and were whipped up by his speech at the Ellipse. They took him at his word that the country was being stolen. And a lot of them, I would assume most of them, got caught up in the moment. But I think you're making the mistake of isolating the events of January 6th and ignoring the previous 2 months where Trump was behind the scenes pressuring election officials, state legislatures in several states to disenfranchise millions of voters. That's what he did. This is not
again,
disputed.
Do you think that a bunch of largely boomers showing up, the most armed populace on Earth, by the way, by density, the most armed populace on Earth, showed up without guns and largely marched around like retards? Do you think that was like an honest-to-God coup, the way you'd see a coup in France?
First of all, when you say largely marched around with retards, did you see the footage of the brutality that day?
Yeah. I saw footage of people fighting, and I also saw footage of hundreds of people being opened like it was a fucking Disney Epcot exhibit.
If you were watching what happened that day, you would understand that the police had lines, and they had these individual lines, and the lines kept being broken. They kept being pushed back closer and closer and closer to the point where they were totally overwhelmed, and they had to fall back into the Capitol. They had nowhere near the amount of staff. You can't hear me. They had nowhere near the amount of law enforcement officers that was needed in that moment to quell the riots. And so they had to fall back. There was nothing else. They were totally overrun. But I just conceded to you a moment ago. I don't think most of the people that did that day showed up thinking like, oh, I'm going to try to like stop the certification. I think they got caught up in the moment. I think they believed Trump when he said that Biden stole the election. And I think they took steps in that moment that they felt was necessary to stop him from certifying the election. Otherwise, the libs are going to steal the country and blah, blah, blah. But the context here is also 2 months of Donald Trump phone calls like his call to Georgia. I need you to find me 11,837 votes, which is one more. That's just one part of this equation. I mean, he assembled false slates of electors. He had no legal right to do that whatsoever. But conservatives always will defer to this thing that happened in 1960 where Hawaii, the Democratic Party in Hawaii presented an alternative slate of electors. They leave out the fact that was during an ongoing recount and they were ordered to do that by a judge. None of these false slates of electors that were happening in the swing states all over the country were ordered to do this. They just took it upon themselves to do this. So there was a plan.
Oh, the humanity.
Hutch, you beat him so bad he disconnected. Let everybody who's here know that what just happened had nothing to do with Taylor's internet connectivity. He was so shamed, so dominated, so alphaed by Hutch, and with Hutch's perfect argument that he had to leave in shame. Let me do the goddamn advertisements.
Donald Trump did not do that on the classified documents case.
I don't know how the offense is any different just because he came forward.
It's different.
Trump would have not. Trump was obstructing the case. He asked his lawyers to lie to the
separate
FBI.
Charge.
He asked his underlings to destroy evidence. He lied about what documents he still had in his possession. And Nara and the FBI were trying to work with the Trump camp for like a year and a half. They gave him so much leniency. And when they had firm evidence from witnesses that he still kept onto deliberately classified information at Mar-a-Lago, that's when they did the raid. So it's just nothing like
I hope they don't throw the whole case out.
True.
We'll see.
Yeah. They're going to appeal that to the 11th Circuit, which is
there anything that Trump didn't do illegally? I just want to know that, like he's keeping illegal boxes in his house and guys are pretending to be electors illegally. That's Trump's. Is there anything he did that's not illegal?
I mean, you're making
He
a strong
raped an
case for why
imaginary
Trump would be a
woman.
bad president, or at
Yeah.
least an immoral one. I'm
Sure.
kind of
The
agreeing with you.
economy disagreed with you while he was president. Does that matter, or was that illegal too?
Did it? So I kind of remember there being fewer jobs at the end of his term than the start.
Oh, well, Woody, this fake disease that went all over
I'm
the
glad you walked
planet
into my
did
trap.
that.
So here's the thing. Everyone's
Damn.
talking
You've
of-
activated my trap card. Yeah. Do you think that like
Reversing.
COVID is some like COVID destroyed?
Did
They locked
Trump
the
do
economy
that?
down. Hundreds of thousands, millions of people lost their jobs because of the COVID shit.
Okay, so I'll respond. People give Biden a hard time about inflation, right? And the deal is, coming into his term, there was a supply chain problem. So we all know supply and demand sets prices. When the supply crashed, because of all these things, there weren't enough container ships. There weren't enough containers themselves. There wasn't enough plastic to make whatever. All these hiccups in the supply chain, demand stayed the same, but supply dropped and prices went up. But no one gives Biden a pass for the COVID-related inflation that happened from the supply chain hiccups.
Yeah.
They say that's Biden's fault. But everybody gives Trump a pass for the jobs lost under his thing. If it's Trump, then it doesn't matter. It's COVID. It's an act of God. It's not his fault. If it's Biden, he fouled up.
And Trump signed 2 stimulus packages into law during his presidency, which helped Americans across the board. On average, Americans save money during COVID. Of course, you can find individual instances where this didn't happen, but on average, Americans
Wait.
actually saved money during the. You can look it up. They
The
on
free
average,
COVID money was
their
good
net
for America,
wealth-
you're saying?
No. I'm saying that it was not just Biden's stimulus. The reason why supply chains got rocked when they did, when the country reopened after the vaccine was being distributed, is because Americans had more net wealth than they did before, on average, than before the pandemic. So if you're going to blame Biden for inflation, which contributed to this exceeding demand, which the supply chains couldn't meet, obviously you would have to paint some of the blame at Trump as well for adding to that stimulus.
But
That's
this
like
idea
too
that like all
fast
the
to be
inflation,
true.
the idea that all the inflation
it-
is like supply chain related is untrue. A huge amount of it had to do with these stimulus bills that printed trillions of
terrible.
dollars, and then we
Yeah.
support. Then we add a couple more forever wars onto the end of it. Support those, just print more money. Like this idea that
Macroeconomics
it's
aside.
supply chain
wait, what are
relation.
you- what are
if
you
it were
saying?
solely supply chain
I'm
related,
saying-
we would have seen a short-term influx in pricing and then a return to average prior to the event. That's not what we saw because it wasn't supply chain
for
solely
a lot of
supply
these-
chain.
No, you're off target. That
No.
supply chain problem lasted for a year or two. It
Yep.
kept going and dragging on. You act like it was a little hiccup. No.
Like supply
But
for
what are you-
oil,
what's
was-
being
was
blamed
supply
on
for-
that? Inflation?
demand-
Wish I could do
Inflation.
demand
I'm trying to explain inflation because everyone
Printing
is
money.
giving Trump a pass.
It's not just printing money.
for the deaths, for the unemployment,
Interest
but no
rates,
one
too.
gives Biden a pass for when people had money in their pocket and the supply chain couldn't meet it.
You guys are talking about like magical mysticism stuff.
No.
The inflation
No.
is printing
No.
money and
That
then
is
jacking
the
up interest
problem,
rates.
right? Like if it's not the simplest of things to understand, then people are just like, I don't know, I don't think so. I disagree.
demand
And then
for
I
oil-
can't win this debate unless I somehow get you to agree with me, which you just can choose not to. The Trump was in that position earlier tonight, right? Where you're like, it's because I'm not retarded. And what he has to get you to start lining up. Like it's an
Demand
impossible
for oil.
situation.
Demand for oil
Wait,
plummeted so
COVID
much.
destroyed the COVID and the subsequent lockdowns destroyed our economy.
Yeah.
Destroyed it.
Are you
Millions
saying
of
that's
people
not
lost
true?
their jobs.
No, I'm not.
You're saying
like,
that's
first
not
of all, well, when we talk about lockdowns, like in California, for example, the lockdown was like 3 weeks, and then we
No,
still
the
had
lockdown
businesses-
was
Oh,
fucked.
dude, come
In
on.
California, I live in LA, bro. The lockdown was totally fucked.
Hold on,
Are you
hold up, hold
insane?
up. They shuttered businesses so they weren't operating at the same level that they were before, but it was within like 2 or 3 months that you could go to like outdoor restaurants or whatever. So it's not like literally the entire economy shut down, but we were also in the middle of an once in a generation pandemic that killed 1 million people. Like, so what, and people at the time, like the CDC or whoever that was setting these standards, All they're trying to do in that
jumping around
moment is
all
to,
over the place. Businesses were locked down.
I'm sorry if you can't.
They were locked down all
follow what
over.
I'm saying. I don't think I'm rambling at all. The issue here with the inflation is that it is just a plain fact that Donald Trump signed a stimulus package with a PPP protection program, which added $600 per week every month on top of existing unemployment benefits, and Americans broadly were able to save money. So by the time these industries opened back up, demand was insane because people had all this money to spend. In 3 weeks? No, we're talking about
California lockdown was 3 weeks, right? And then we could go eat outside in a park.
The literal shelter in place was, I think, like 3 weeks, right? Are you disagreeing with that? Should we just look it up?
Dude, the economy
this goes back to like me not being retarded. The California lockdown lasted forever. There was everyone was working from home, restaurants and businesses
as well. If you want to get dinner sometime, we can do that. But
yeah, we can go to a nice outdoor restaurant. Like restaurants are permanently outside now. Are you saying this lie to people that California was not locked down?
No,
wait, you can't eat inside anymore, Nick?
I'm saying the rhetoric that we use sometimes, I think, exaggerates what happened. It's no question that the ordinances that were put into place, businesses had to operate at like a limited function. But when we talk about lockdown, the actual shelter in place, I don't think that lasted longer than like 2 or 3 weeks. And I just feel like people
totally
blow
wrong. People left the state. It still hasn't recovered from COVID. LA specifically and California has not recovered from COVID.
I don't know what that means.
I think your life before COVID was sitting in your room if you think it's recovered. It hasn't. LA's totally destroyed still.
I can't speak for LA, but the nation has recovered. Jobs.
Hold on, let's let Dick.
No, hold on. I get a chance to.
Go for
unemployment has been below 4% for like a record number of months or quarters, whatever that is now. The stock market passed 40,000. If this was Trump, he'd be taking credit for this economy. I just went to Charlotte. The roads were busy with people coming home from work. I could hardly get a reservation at the restaurants. We were down to our third and fourth choices. The hotel, the valet wait was like an hour to get our car. Business is booming. Cities are packed. People are working. This idea that the economy isn't doing well is just a thing that the Republicans keep saying in an effort to win an election.
Dude, do you
go
to grocery stores? Do you buy groceries? It's so fucking expensive that people like me are price sensitive now. Meat is so much more expensive than it was 5 years ago. Commodities are so much more expensive than it was 5 years ago.
Woody's point is that if you're going to blame inflation on Biden, then yeah, we get to blame job losses on Trump. Because
there are job losses.
Of course.
There were job losses under Trump. That's what I was saying. And you guys say those aren't real job losses because they're COVID. Well, then this isn't real inflation because of COVID.
No, they're both real. They're both real things. The difference is like I dislike how Trump handled that. He shouldn't have played into the lockdown. It destroyed our economy. It's a huge negative thing.
He didn't even do that, for the record. I mean, for like 2 weeks he pretended to be like strict about the stuff, and after like 3 weeks he was saying it's going to be over by Easter.
He was taking credit for the vaccine.
It's going to be over by
He was
Easter.
taking credit for the vaccine.
He does the Trump two-step, right, where he says both things, and then you can hear whatever you want. He was telling people that they can't wear masks purely because he thought that if people wore masks, it would hurt him in the election. And he's also telling people that this vaccine is God's gift and he's responsible for it. Trump talks on both sides all the time, and it's infuriating.
But the masks were dumb, right?
Do you two agree? Like Taylor,
you don't know a piece of cloth over your face was
Biden doesn't wear one. Did you see Biden getting on Air Force One? He's got no mask. None of the Secret Service have masks. Like, what happened?
That's interesting.
Do you guys agree? Do you guys agree
that
Donald Trump? Do you guys agree that Donald Trump signed 2 stimulus packages into law?
Hated it. Yeah.
Right. So, do you understand that he had to have contributed to part of that inflation?
Yes. Yes. A huge amount. Like, I'm not all about. I'm not the biggest Trump fan. I see Trump as a better alternative to the other side. I'm not a big Trump fanboy. I think he does a bunch of fucking retarded shit. I don't like his constant promotion of, funding Israel forever and ever. Like, he does a bunch of shit I don't like. And so this idea that like it has to be president versus president. No, the way they both handled it was bad, and it was a net negative for American people.
When we've got a guy on our Patreon who's an Israeli tank commander. He messaged me earlier, Woody. If he said he could come on the show. He's been in action, and I think like a big part of like what's going on in the war. And he said he has all sorts of like fun war stories that he could tell about.
They are
going into
rocks at us. Very dangerous rocks.
I'm a piercing rocks.
I'm a piercing rocks.
Kyle, we should have him on.
I didn't know that the Israeli accent
maybe
was
a small
so similar
segment.
to the French accent.
Yeah, we should like target an amount of time, 60 minutes, 90 minutes. And if it runs long, it runs long. But if he runs dry,
I'll write back and tell him, no, I find that shit fascinating. I don't know how you two fall on the Palestinian Israeli conflict thing. I've gone back and forth. The more research I do, like I'll go back the other way. I think I've gone back and forth 3 fucking times, and I'm back on the Israeli side. Although the other day I heard the Israelis were using dogs to rape Palestinians, to torture them, and I was like, damn, that's a bit strong, isn't it?
Is there any post canine felching involved?
Dude,
when you hear anything that evil, like the 40 beheaded babies, like when I hear something so
That
over
happened,
the top
Taylor.
evil, my gut reaction is like,
Woody's denying dead
this
babies.
This sounds like the other side has a vested interest in pushing this.
I'm denying dead babies because Dr. Disrespect's victims were most likely in their teens.
Jesus fucking Christ, he didn't kill anybody. And we're not suggesting he did. He just broke a lot of teen hearts. That's all.
Well, I don't know.
I don't think I know for a
are.
fact I wouldn't give a fuck about Israel whatsoever if they didn't clearly have so much hold over our politics. Like I don't care what Israel and the Middle East are up to. I couldn't care. Same way with Ukraine. I don't give a fuck about Ukraine and Russia. I don't care about Israel and Palestine. Why do we have to hear about it here in the United States? We got enough problems. Stop.
Well, I don't know how plugged in you guys are with like left wing politics, but the Israel Palestine thing was incendiary for like online spaces, and it was crazy. Like my take is like it's a little bit of nuance where it's like I feel like Israel is completely justified in trying to eliminate Hamas. Like I don't understand why they would tolerate that like right next to them. And then I also think that Netanyahu and Israel could be doing more to protect.
So a potentially violent group on their border justifies action, and Russia Ukraine joining NATO and putting military bases in there. You don't like that though.
Well, the difference is that
commie traitor to our country. I don't want to hear that shit, Taylor. I don't want to hear that.
I don't even pointed well. I'm not sure I did it.
Which doing it that way, commie.
Wait, that's me.
You
You're pointing at Woody, you fucking retard.
I believe
you fucking idiot.
Right the first time, and I thought Woody was correcting me, but I think he was just complimenting me on my pointing skills. Commie,
yeah,
commie traitor to our country. All right. Oh, you want us to be our little isolationist island? The biggest fucking island of scaredy cats in the world. What are we going to make then? We're the best weapons manufacturers that have ever existed. You want to stop that? You want to stop when business is a booming? There's folks that need killing, Taylor, and we make killing tools.
There's no reason for us to be there. No reason.
Oh, I've got billions of reasons. How is Hunter Biden going to get his next paycheck if Ukraine falls? He needs to get plugged back in.
I think Taylor's like political profile is probably in like 0.001% of the country, where you have like a libertarian isolationist who believes in universal healthcare and is pro-life. Like that is such an interesting constellation of.
I'm not even I wouldn't even say it's libertarian. Like I'm very nationalistic in a lot of my views, in that like I want America for Americans, promoting things that help American citizens. Like. So I guess that's nationalism, right? Like
that sounds more like isolationism or nativism, but like nationalism necessarily has a bad so like the definition of nationalism is like extreme patriotism and focus on like a national identity to the detriment of other countries. That's like if other countries have to like do a little worse so Americans can do better, I'm cool with that. Like no,
they already do. That's the way.
We more like trying to invade Mexico.
Like if your government doesn't,
I'm all right. Not Canada, but Mexico.
Those countries are worthless. But if like your country has to fight on behalf of you as a citizen, if your government isn't fighting on behalf of you as a citizen, your government has failed. Like it has to represent us. It has to.
I would take a good bit of Mexico away. I don't see why we build the wall on our side. Like they're causing a problem. I'm going to put the fence on their side.
I only want to
least
steal the
take
good
Baja.
parts.
The wall can be so much shorter if we just go a little lower below California.
You want Baja?
Yeah.
Done.
Thank you, Kyle. For
You know what
president.
I want? I want Toronto, Vancouver, Ottawa. I want to make sure
These are all hockey cities.
I want to make sure that Canada doesn't even have an NHL team. Get fucked.
That's more of an NHL decision. You really don't need the whole country in a global war.
Yeah, I do want to say this.
Usually my takes are so serious.
Hutch was talking about Taylor's positions, and while I don't agree with all of them, I really like the way Taylor arrived at them. What I don't love is when someone just happens to agree with everything that their side does. Like I'm pro-gun, but mostly vote blue. And Taylor has a lot of positions like that too. Like he's pro-national health care, but Republicans generally aren't.
I'm pro-drugs.
Like I hate Republicans. They are fucking losers. They're embarrassing losers.
Well, that's okay, Taylor, because we love you.
They're the worst.
You big strong son bitch.
They seem slightly better than the Democrats to me, and some of my core issues, which is no more forever wars, close the border, and universal health care isn't going to get got by fucking either party, but that is definitely
war is what we fucking do. Why do people not like our war?
They don't want us to, because
they're fucking sick. They're fucking sick. We never lose. Dude, what game mode are you playing? We lose mode are you playing? I'm playing TDM. We always win. We wipe the fucking floor with them.
Dude, we lost Vietnam.
Excuse me, just one moment.
We won Vietnam in TDM.
Have you ever seen those photos of the U.S. Army with those piles of gold bullion? Where did that end up? Like, I swear, we win all of these wars, and it's a good fucking time. And all of our big companies, it's a good fucking time. Dude, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 would not have had the AC-130 if George Bush hadn't done the right thing and invaded Iraq, okay? That's what that footage was based on.
Dude, honestly, Kyle is more nationalistic. Kyle's more nationalistic than me in regard to the military, because anything the American military does anywhere on Earth, he's like, badass, keep doing it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I want more of it. I want more of it.
You not realize the cost of that on the American public? And you're like,
who are you talking about? What public? Were they mutilated?
They were mutilated. Who? I was mutilated when I had to pay my taxes this year, Kyle.
Oh, please. Like that money came from your taxes. They just print as much as they need. The $3 trillion went missing from the Pentagon. If it didn't come from
my taxes, why did I have to cut that check?
No, it doesn't matter how much it costs. It's what we fucking do. And we print the money so it doesn't matter how much it fucking costs.
What we do is lose every war.
Make the best killing. Okay. By your terms, maybe. But I just strongly.
Who has the land afterwards?
In Vietnam, and
I don't know why we don't conquer places. And when Trump said it, everybody acted like he was out of his mind. He was blaming George Bush for Iraq.
Just take
the oil. Take it all. He was blaming George Bush for Iraq and how it was a huge mistake because the weapons of mass destruction weren't really there. He was shouting all this, and he said we didn't even keep it. And I was like, did he think that was a possibility that we just kept it? And I was like, damn, why didn't we just keep it?
They turned around.
Honestly,
and
the wars
their
for oil thing was never the wars for oil thing was never salient to me as far as reasons to go in the Middle East, because like it was basically an argument like, oh, what if I spend $1 trillion to break into Woody's house and then steal his projector? It's like, well, you can buy that projector for $1,500. That's exactly the situation in the Middle East. Like we spent trillions of dollars to purportedly secure oil reserves that we still don't have in order to what? Like not buy them at cheaper than the war would have been? We already have Saudi Arabia in our pocket. They're our little bitch.
Are we talking about Iraq right now? Are we talking about Iraq 2? Because that Iraq 2 is literally to avenge the plot on George Bush's father. Plain and simple. That's all it is.
So Kyle, I've heard that, and I'm not sure it's wrong. We might both be right, because I keep hearing that a lot of these oil wars are about keeping USD to be the global currency.
Sick.
That they saber rattle about switching to the euro or something else.
We topple them.
And we got to do a little killing.
Dude, I love that shit. We've won 1,000 little wars that you've never heard of. Because it would make a fucking good Tom Cruise movie, dude. That's why. Because it's entertaining. Because I don't care.
Republican.
I think it's
Taylor.
You're a Reagan Republican, a shining city on the hill with missiles pointed at everybody else.
Dude, Reagan sucked, and I don't like him.
Like safety through strength. Yeah, like we need one of them laser space programs to shoot down nukes. We need to do something about those Russian subs off our coast. But otherwise, we just need to keep fucking shit up. We're like, you're acting like there's another way. Like we're not the Spartans of this era in the world. Like when they look back to this time, 1,000 years from now,
we're all fat as fuck, dude.
What are you, my friend?
Have you not seen Kyle's Tinder profile? He's not fat.
The guys we send aren't fat.
And you would
though.
know rocks.
And you don't need to be skinny and svelte to operate a Predator drone from fucking Nevada. Like you know what I mean? Like it's a different game now. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but why the
fat.
constant like approval of U.S. interventionism and other like I'm not even isolationist as much
because
as I am
people with more information than me, because people with more information than me and that are smarter than me deem it to be in the best interest of the United States because they think so. I back that blindly because our system is made for me to do so.
Retarded.
It's supposed to be the best of the best.
Retarded? You should hear my reason. Global intervention is how I learn about geography.
Dude, that's true. I had no idea how big Ukraine was.
You think I knew where Ukraine was? I know it was in Europe.
I didn't know where Kiev was for sure. I didn't know about that river. I didn't know exactly where the nuclear disaster was. I've got a little bit of European geography down now.
The first thing I did when that broke out was I fired up Microsoft Flight Simulator on my 32x9 OLED monitor. And
holy
I flew around
shit!
Ukraine. But
did
you
you find anything
fascinating? Well, I mean, it's pretty beautiful, but like it's a really fascinating moment right now for the Republican Party because like Merle Haggard was performing at the RNC, I think, yesterday, and he's singing a song, and the lyrics are "Let's get out of Iraq and get this country back on track." And it's like as somebody who became an adult during the Bush era, conservative jingoism of like the post September 11th era, I'm like my mind is spinning. I'm like, what is like how these are the people that were calling, people like me traitors for like opposing the war as like a little college hippie. And now they're singing this tune. But
what do you make of a lot of black?
They were wrong for promoting those bullshit forever wars that went on for 20 years. You were right. Stay out of this. There's no reason. There's no benefit to the American public to be involved in wars in Iraq or Afghanistan.
Our weapons are getting better. It's so much great weapon testing. Like we're just getting better and better at blowing things up and killing stuff, and that's what we do.
You think that's worth like a million Iraqi lives?
You know any Iraqis?
As a kid.
What are you? Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Is this right?
Yes,
way?
you're doing well.
Look at this guy. Loves the Iraqis. Oh, look at him. Oh, Iraqi flag. I love you.
How can you not point independent of someone else telling you what way to point? You fucking retard.
Because it's different on my screen, silly. It's different on my screen. You see, Taylor. Sometimes it's all about perspective. You're a goober smooching Iraq lover, and I'm an American patriot. Rock flag eagle.
Rock flag eagle. Love that.
like I'm sure like we can broadly agree that some American interventions have been bad, but like how do you, for example, like if we have a strategic partnership with like the Somali government and they ask for our help. Fighting, they have a terrorist problem over there, and they say, hey, like, can you help us like deal with that? Like how do you evaluate whether or not to do that? I mean, I used to be kind of very skeptical of like the American hegemon, the global like hegemon, but at this point, like I feel like I'm kind of grateful that we're the world superpower and not China. Like I would much rather prefer that it would be us.
We are for now, like, and that's something that I think I differ from maybe Woody and Kyle from is. I don't think our position on the world stage as the global hegemon is as long-lasting as them. Like I don't think we're going.
Who runs the government
now?
Right?
50 years from now, 100 years from now, I don't think we're going to be the global hegemon. Like we're just not set up.
Taylor,
China is a very serious country. A very serious country.
Their economy is not doing great right now, though.
Their population is shrinking, which crushes the economy. Which is, we've talked
about this before. Manufacturing is leaving China for Indonesia and other Asian markets because they're not. They were always crappy like quality, but they were cheap, and now that's going away, and now they can't fulfill orders. Not worried about big China. Not worried about the Kung flu. Okay, we'll see how quickly Genocide Joe recovers from the virus. That's what I want to see. Like we talked about how deadly this goddamn virus was. Joe must have had 6 fucking boosters. Let's see how well he handles it. Like, I think that'll be a little bit telling.
He doesn't have COVID, dude. He probably
he doesn't
want to go out. Like they
yeah, Taylor
who's
knows
testing for COVID anymore. Who really is? He has 7 boosters, and if he has the best doctors on earth, he's got 10 boosters for it, right? What's the timeline?
With the president who's 81 years old, I guarantee the White House does probably regular COVID testing. I would assume.
Well, he was feeling down and jet lagged after that 2-week flight.
Yeah, 10 days later, you're still jet lagged. Yeah,
happens to the best of us. That could have been anyone.
I don't care whether or not he has COVID. I disagree so strongly with Kyle's imperialist, I'll put it, position that we need to have military in every corner of the world. And
I kind of want an empire, if I'm being real. Like I want to keep the same system, but I want like a figurehead up there who's got like how the UK does it. How you've got a prime minister, we have fair elections, all that, but there's a king, and the king's got a little bit of say. And he's not going anywhere. Like I kind of like, he's not going to invade anywhere. The king can't invade. The king can't send a predator strike, but he's got some sway with the government and with the people, and he's up there to be beloved, to be, shall I say, worshipped just a little bit. And I can think of no better man to be the king of America than Donald J. Trump.
I like my presidents who don't get shot.
I like Elon.
He's in a very small group of presidents who got shot and lived through it.
Yeah, but he did it like a pussy, right? Theodore Roosevelt sat there and did 2 hours of speech. Yeah. President Bunker Boy immediately hit the floor. He's like, oh no, they pierced my ear. An operation that 9-year-old girls don't even blink at. And then he grabs his high heels and leaves the stage. That's not impressive.